After an explosive game number 2, Tempo Storm goes up 2-0 and sits 1 game away from going to BlizzCon Team Freedom. We saw the magic yesterday. There's going to be a mountain to climb to get back into this series because Tempo Storm, they've been hiding everything for a couple of weeks, and they come out with unique drafts that are seemingly hard to deal with.
And when talking to Tempo Storm at the beginning of the week, not knowing exactly which opponent they would face, it felt like they were confident. And here, even again, with maybe a mix-up when it comes to who they expected to face, still displaying that dominance and that control so far. So, again, as you pointed out, it's going to be a mountain to climb here for Team Freedom.
Well, let's see where that mountain starts. If they're going to start, it has to be now. Battleground number 3 will be Cursed Hollow. Map picked by Tempo Storm.
Interesting selection here for Tempo Storm.
After what I saw last game, I don't even know anymore.
Well, yeah, I think that's a really good point to bring up. After what you saw last game, there's a hero that was picked in the last game who's really, really good on Cursed Hollow.
But you know what I'm also starting to think about is, we'll get this going in a second. What if,
all right,
what if we kick it back to like week 7 or week 8, and 3 little guys going on an adventure
TLV.
while the rest of the team is... what we've seen from this team, they can do, if they have the global, Glaurung on Dahaka, for all the flaws, he's still, you can point, look, everybody's going to make mistakes. Sometimes some are more obvious than others. But Glaurung, I mean, no matter how you shape it up, I mean, you can look through NA, you're like, name me your top offlaners. Glaurung's still sitting top 2 or 3, no matter what list you have. I mean, Goku...
I think Goku's the only one I put above him, probably, consistently.
And it could be debatable. So no matter what, you still have this player that he's like the ultimate X factor. When he's going, he can do a lot for this team. And that's the fun thing about having a fan and a Glaurung on your team is that at any number, it doesn't matter what you put these guys on. They've been around so long. They're used to being at the top for so long. They're just like, let's make it happen.
If you want a case example of that, I think last game was perfect. If you think about, oh man, Glaurung, he's known for his Illidan. You know what Glaurung's more known for? His Kerrigan. He made his name on Kerrigan. Kerrigan is his piece. So much so when the rework came in, we had Heroes devs say on this rework, I want to see Glaurung play the Kerrigan because that is the guy I think of when I play that character. So to show that they can run a little bit of everything, they can make it work, and they have the double playmakers no matter what role really they're kind of going with. They can function at the highest level here of North America, and it's why they sit here. Again, a game away from going to BlizzCon and being the second North American representative. Maev, Abathur, banned out. I expect a Medivh somewhere down the line.
I wonder, though, is Uther's going to be banned out, taking away some of that trickery? Will Team Freedom opt for a first pick in the support of the Tyrande Whitemane? Will they let something through? Hanzo, very good on this battleground. We know that we've seen Team Freedom play with that. Sergeant Hammer has to be considered in many regards. So there is some play. Just in EU earlier, Fnatic tried their hand not once but twice out of Sylvanas. We won't go too far into that though.
Tyrande is going to be the choice here for Freedom. What do we get from Tempo? Oh my, denial here is the Anubarak Greymane.
Names changed?
Is this a call out? Saying you're the ones who want to get the split push most of the time, but if you don't have those, it's not an option unless you want to pick that Sylvanas as I bring it back up unintendedly. That is one of the only ways you can compensate with this. And also Tyrande normally, even though she looked great with the last game, doesn't function very well with the Illidan. So we get the Hanzo Arthas pickup.
Okay, so here's the thing. Arthas does very well dealing with Greymane in Worgen form, slowing the auto attacks and his movement speed. The Brightwing denying a global, which still brings to me, if I want to make sure you want to commit Arthas and somebody else to defend this push, that's fine. I've got Vikings. I've got a 4-man push here. That slow is nice. Zeratul ban. I'm expecting something wild here.
The Illidan is really incentivized because of that Arthas pickup by Team Freedom, but it is an appealing pickup for that offlane and the global, I would argue, on the side of Team Freedom in the same sense it was for Tempo of the last game. Genji and Dahaka are the pickup here for Tempo Storm.
Like I said, I'm not expecting anything wild here.
As we get the standardized draft here out of them, Genji may be the wildest thing, and it's not that wild post-second ban phase and being let this far through on a map like Curse. Last up here now from Team Freedom at the back end. I can't help but feel like that global or something to match the Dahaka is going to be necessary. And a Junkrat's too squishy. ETC is the answer as we get a Phoenix paired with it.
And that gives you your global. Now we'll see Whitemane, Deckard still available. If you want to be aggressive with this composition, Karazim would be there. But going into an Arthas doesn't seem likely. Instead, you dance around the Arthas. And if Arthas is slowing people, you give them some movement speed and you drop the beats. Because we've got a Lucio here.
June just looked at Team Freedom, and I feel like he's like, I'm better than you with that Lucio pickup. Because Lucio, some of his better matchups are actually Arthas and ETC. The mobility of the Lucio enabled to everybody else with a good boop on top of it, you set your team free of the Frozen Tempest problems. ETC's power slide gets interrupted by the boop as well, and it denial, but denying both the boop on the Arthas and the ETC at the exact same time solely from the Lucio, that's going to be a hard time. And you know Illidan, he's going to want some heals.
Genji.
Or, excuse me, Genji. Genji's going to want some heals. Sorry.
I'm
stuck on the Illidan. No, you're right. The Genji is going to want some heals, and he's going to be on the other side. And it's going to be, it's a unique trade-off here between the two.
Here's an interesting conundrum for me. You pick the ETC seemingly in this composition to be a global with stage dive. Lucio, and I remember talking to June last year, Lucio was in and out of the meta really when he came out.
Yeah.
The first Western Clash was like, wait a minute, this hero's pretty good right now. And he came in kind of raised up. Lucio's boop range is kind of awkward.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing him, talking to him, and even seeing it on stream. He said, the Lucio boop on an ETC mosh pit is one of the hardest things because the range on it is just outside. And making sure to capture that against an ETC, I wonder if that makes Team Freedom maybe second guess what that pick is. Because I look at a Greymane, a Lucio, and a Genji, and I'm like, are you stage diving onto anybody? Or are you simply using it as a global to make up distance?
It's interesting here. And Jay-How, we haven't even talked about what I think one of the greatest advantages of having the Lucio. We've talked a lot of the negatives, but when you have an Anubarak, Greymane, Lucio together, as you see them already accepting their role as the trio of tempo, they can rotate those front walls when those rotations are responded to by Freedom faster than anybody else because of the Lucio. You get in, you get out, and you rotate, and you make it to where the effectiveness of your impact in the game is just, you know, that much higher than Team Freedom when they normally run these Anubarak and Greymane strats.
Looked like they had something in mind and started to pretend like they're going down. Cattle will make the rotation over, see if Nasmus will move out. The lethal will be there. The important thing to note is the angle that Cattle takes there, it's important to make sure and be on the underside or the overside, depending on what tower you're on, to spawn your beetles. If you spawn them middle of that tower and you take it from a front-end approach, those beetles get hit by both towers, and the lifespan of those beetles is much shorter. So you'll always see that. If you're trying this at home, make sure that you're on the top side or the bottom side, depending on which area you're diving, to get max value out of those beetles to siege up.
Works for bosses too, though you can't totally control them. It all comes down to which one you end up taking or not taking. Tempo Storm, what they're taking is going to be their Giants. Very early on here, no surprise considering the strategy. The question is, do you go for the early Knights or do you push with the Giants? I normally would expect to see a push with the Giants, but I wonder if they felt like they didn't get enough already in the early opener for that to be a worthwhile strategy, as we get the early brush talk from Dahaka to enable those and also make sure it's available for the first tribute when it does end up spawning. This Tempo taking the standard Knight pickup.
Yeah, it's important to use that now because of the cooldown reduction on that global. So you make sure that will be available for that to come in. So the Knight Camp, as you had identified, will be the pickup here by Tempo Storm. A Phoenix on the other side does have pretty decent wave clear. So how aggressive Tempo Storm is with the potential push, or maybe the rotation out elsewhere, it looks like that rotation will be bottom.
Yeah, it should have been a little bit quicker there, questioning if they were going to join with the ranks of that, but eventually landing on the bottom half. Going for the split siege damage, just going to take out a free turret there. Zugrug using that debuff on the auto attack speed, and there we go. That is the Lucio benefits. Just walk away from the situation, and though, yes, Tempo did end up deciding to go for the rest of the clear on these Giants, they normally have the opportunity to just rotate out and get any kind of pressure they want. And now booping back onto Zugrug, has the Howling Blast, will not end up landing there, finding, I was going to say no stacks, but not even having the option, as Rhyme was the pickup there at 1.
Well, you mentioned the amount of interrupts and control that Lucio can have. Did go into the cooldown reduction as long as he uses that sound wave while he has the movement speed bonus active from the wall ride. So as long as he's wall ride in, which on Cursed Hollow is easy to do,
yeah,
he'll have those frequent sound waves to try and have control for his team.
And when you take this talent, you and Accelerando at 1, you are one of the best chasing heroes in the entire game. You can constantly boop like a Hanzo back, make him in terrible positioning. June going to fall a little bit low here early on, already using the amp it up to make sure he gets the mad value out of that heal. Going to go around maybe for an interrupt onto Collusion, decides against it, and first trip here to Freedom.
Yeah, they are going to deal with the camp here in the middle. Stun will come out onto Cattle. He'll be able to walk away from that. Fan will get the Swift Strike through. The Root will miss. We'll have a soft reset here as things get underway. Taka and ETC are dueling. I just looked up at those health bars. They're both sitting at about 25–30% health in that top lane.
In theory, Glong slightly pulling ahead just because likely to have that passive. As Tempo Storm make the transition up to get free damage onto this fort now. Anubarak going to join in, provide some beetles as he's already scouting. Beetle 1 going to be here. There's a second and a third once the shield's procced. This should be a fort here for Tempo Storm on the opposite side. And Jayhow, this is a major win on Curse Hollow this early on to get this experience advantage while one tribute's gone through. Normally you see this fort die after the second tribute's already been picked up by Freedom, and it hasn't even spawned yet.
Yeah, this is a very good spot for Tempo Storm to be in. Tribute spawning here on the left side in favor of Team Freedom positionally. We're still 30 seconds away before any boss spawns at that 5-minute mark. So taking advantage of that Hanzo, difficult to do this early in the game. Also see that adaptation at level 7 for the Arthas going Rune Tap for Zugrug, trying to stay alive.
They're going to boss on Freedom's side at the 5-minute spawn, or are they going to just go for the night siege, or the fort siege? They are. They're just going to skip everything, go for the key front wall, and say, you have to answer to me. And if nobody does, this is going to trade up a lot more. Jayhow, those keep front walls are not the same as fort front walls. They're worth far, far more.
Yeah.
And they're just going down for free. I
mean, a fort alone is worth 1250. A fort, a keep tower. And this might actually be enough. Ben got rooted there. He's going to try and track out of there using that movement speed, but he's going to be tracked down. So the trade out, maybe not where he expected it to be. Lutano trying to get in here, already used his agility. But that experience, the 800 experience from that keep tower is significant.
But if Freedom is going to make a power play, they had to snap boss. And they have the opportunity to do that still here as the tribute spawning 26 seconds out. They will have a boss. They will have a curse. Tempo has the tools to answer to this situation, though, because the experience advantage that they have. This is actually such a big advantage in favor of Tempo that I'm not sure it's in their best interest to capture the tribute. Get the boss, buy the downtime, respond elsewhere on the map, because if you pick both this up, you lose a huge window.
Yeah, you can. The potential advantage, I think the only good thing would be that Tempo Storm doesn't have a tribute either. So you soft reset the game with, okay, we've got the curse, the boss will push, the siege giants needed to be cleared up. The Root's just gonna miss.
And because the tribute was waited on to make sure that Freedom would get 10 as close as possible during this curse, they also lost that boss and any ability to compete around it as well. And that's going to be pressuring out during the curse and having pretty much optimal timing for Tempo Storm. So now Team Freedom has a lot on their shoulders to make something happen.
Oh, they're flanking up, Dread.
Getting caught out and towards mid. Now the drag not going to land, but Yoda is going to be the focus. And Jayhow, there's no fort there. That is a long trek back.
Yeah, you mentioned Lucio. He actually was able to blink and warp out. The Phoenix was, because if Lucio tracks that down, he does not make it back. So a very timely warp. That's like a scary monster running at you in a movie, and then all of a sudden, like, you just happen to duck around the corner. This one's name is June on Lucio, though. Probably not the scariest title I've heard.
Not when you know June as a person, not so much. maybe when it comes to his in-game gameplay, but when it comes to cute little June, not really. Knight can't pick up now for Tempo Storm as the curse falls. Small advantage when it comes to structures for Freedom, but the experience is sat at a dead even here between these teams.
Sentinel will sniff it out. I don't think they'll make it over in time, but they do give themselves some vision to make the proper rotations. At the end of that, they did make up the experience deficit. They get here a little late, but Nasmus actually makes a timely stage dive. There's the Dragon Arrow. That will part the seas. Zugrug unable to land anything. The Cattle comes over, put the Impale down, and there's a whole camp and a wave here in the mid, which will allow them to get onto this fort.
JL, I love the aggression here from Team Freedom, but that felt almost like a sniff of desperation behind that initiation there. To go for the stage dive and the Dragon's Arrow, but not time them at the exact same time and go for the risky hit within a choke that Tempo Storm could respond to shows to me that they felt that was one of maybe the few fights left possibly in the series from them that they can take. So it'll be interesting to see if that is in fact the case or if they can respond differently here. But the Dragon's Arrow is the biggest thing for me, not needed in that type of circumstance here.
The good thing for Team Freedom, structurally, Dreadnought, they sit ahead. And you look at the boss lanes, there's only remnants of the fort on the side of Team Freedom in terms of the more advantageous boss on the side of Tempo Storm. So when it comes to the boss race, that will make its path directly towards that top keep wall. So we see Tempo Storm trying to find an advantage in the top lane here. We're 2 minutes away before that comes in. Experience almost dead even.
Love the play here from Tempo Storm. They're playing one of my favorite games in all of shot calling and Heroes of the Storm. And that is, how many times can I make you answer to me on your half of the battleground? Tempo is constantly feigning, hey, we're up in the top lane. Are you prepared to lose this keep yet? Demanding some kind of answers here from Freedom. But now with the tribute up, the rotation's a little bit different from Tempo as they patiently wait here on the side. Nasmus, Cocoon, is it going to be the interrupt tool if needed? Stage dive is the only way out, and it's not an option. Tribute given up, but how much does Tempo get in the siege here in the top lane?
The fan gets locked down. That's a lot of damage. See if we get the track over. The Swift Strike, that should be it. The Dragon Arrow. Death Coil, that's going to be
by the way.
But the damage in the top lane, we have to focus on this. They sidewalled. This is where this composition really shines. Yoda comes in. He's going to get the Plasma Cutter. Out comes, well, that was going to be a salvo, but that's going to be a Cocoon, and that will lock him down. And this is going to be keep number 1 going down at 10 minutes in. No way to track this down as Dragon Arrow was used on that last kill.
And with the movement speed there of June, it is not a close race on the escape outward. Here's a boop onto Zugrug. He actually missed the boop. Now the stage dive comes through. Oh, Vin with that disengage. Eyes in the dark helping him, and there's another amp it up. Tempo Storm makes it out here alive. But J.O., that missing that boop was almost the beginning of the end here for Tempo Storm.
Boss will be spawning soon. Nasmus and team, they're continuing to try and track down Cattle, but he will have a burrow charge available. Surprised they chased this down as hard as they did. They will turn their attention towards that siege camp, which could be a potential boss defender. But with Tempo Storm getting that keep down, that lead fairly even just moments ago, but that keep and the experience that they got in that side lane with the Tahaka has amassed to almost a 2-level lead.
And that's not even talking about the catapult pressure that translates to later in the game. It's just raw numbers alone. Tempo miles ahead after that huge rotation from them. And they're going to continue this advantage in experience on the bottom half now. 16 just around the corner. Genji yet to make his transition is Freedom is still focusing on the boss. They pick it up, but it comes at the cost of the keep. And J-How, Freedom, this is their moment. They have to stop this and then push with this boss after this point.
Yoda tried to warp in there and got interrupted on the warp in. He did not save that. I'm not sure what the thought process is of going in there other than to try and get max Plasma Cutter value. But now that boss will be pushing. Their best bet is to keep them here. But with June on their side, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But Ben, if they get the kill onto Ben, this would be clutch.
There's a sound barrier. 2-man Dragon's Arrow with the Lunar Flare. Power Slide coming through. June is going to get the sidewall as the Eyes in the Dark is the reveal. He has to dodge. The stage dive, boop away. There it is. He survives. June makes it out here, except for that nice scatter air. Sentinel is the only thing that can get the kill on him left.
I think they've got to make a play on boss or something. I mean, they've got 2 keeps down. That boss that they got in that top lane is not doing much. They have Hanzo here, no Greymane, so the lethal threat will come by way of that Genji, and you can see he's mid lane. So we're going to see the boss steal here by Team Freedom. That made it through the keep wall. So this will net them some XP and some control over this battleground, take away 1 potential win condition, at least for another 5 minutes from Tempo Storm. But the lead is starting to climb further and further.
Curse channel is started. Tempo Storm is going to get free clear over this boss while Fan makes his way towards top. 1:07 here for the Siege of Team Freedom. Still 16 is out of the window, but not for too long, as this experience will be here.
They're coming in. Genji showing top lane. That shows enough. Stun comes down. Zugrug, Lutano and team are here. They've got 16. See if they might go for the home run play. Curse still 45 seconds. Army is out. Wall's starting to fall. Zugrug moving forward, trying to catch up here. But Zugrug, the drag's going to land. There's the dragon arrow. That's going to land. Salvo comes out, but that is met by a sound barrier.
Great sound barrier there from June, and now the team is able to hold its own as the front wall goes down. Another silence there as the boss slam comes through. Yoda falling low. Collusion now the focus for Tempo Storm. The burrow charge hits. 4 members of Team Freedom are dead. The boss, the only thing really left of note on the side of Freedom. Hanzo might be able to join in to be able to help make sure that keep does end up falling, but it's not enough to threaten the game.
Dread.
Yeah, Tempo's going to end while Glarung backdoors, make sure Lutano doesn't get any free, cheeky backdoor, and then brush stock through, make sure the game goes over. Tempo should have this, J-How.
Arthas 5 seconds from spawning. The rest of Team Freedom moments behind that. Lutano starting to make his way back, but the brush stalker comes in by Dahaka, and here we go. Tempo Storm looking to try and close it out right here against Team Freedom. Lutano and Zugrug trying to stay on this. The shields have fallen. Members starting to come back. Stage dive comes in. Vin, they've got to get Vin taken down. 70% and falling. And right now, Tempo Storm still on this core. 50% and falling. Tempo Storm, they're starting to fall. They're starting to die. That's 2 members down.
I don't think they have the damage. 20%, 23, going 19, 15, 2 members alive. And that is the wipe. Freedom hold on at 14% and is able to now take the red carpet back and send us to a Game 4.
Team Freedom showing the magic for another day. We can let it just calm for a moment because Team Freedom will walk all the way to the other side. And they said, it's time for us to end this game. And Team Freedom miraculously holds there to keep their hopes alive. The magic is real with this team, Dread.
The magic is very much real and able to take on the Anubarak Greymane denial of Tempo Storm in the 1-2, showing that they have what it takes. And suddenly, Tempo Storm has got to be shaken in their boots a bit, as they did sit back and watch Octalysis face this exact same thing.
Holy cow. I mean, if you're a viewer, you're like, again? Again? Is this really happening?
Be like, all right, Blizzard, we get it, the script, like, it's cool. Like, the script's been written, it's dramatic, but this is way too far. Nobody will ever believe 2 back-to-back reverse sweeps.
It was Game 3 yesterday. They took a fight down 3 levels and 1 talent tier, came back and won that game. This time, Game 3, they're like, you know what? It's a lot different because now all of a sudden we come back with 14% core, and that was so good, so exciting, Dreadnought. We're taking another look at that because Vin was the main one there, Dread.
Yes, that is the biggest thing to point out is Vin makes a big mistake here. Is the biggest thing is staying away from the Arthas. Zugrug auto attack debuff is the biggest thing, but he just took a large chunk of damage from Lutano. Now he moves up towards the spawn where we have more targets. Lutano still auto attacking, and now disengage is just now available. Vin dying is possibly...
If Vin lives 2 to 3 seconds longer,
that might be the game, and that could be enough for the percentage. At this point, now it is just taking away the damage dealers as best you can. Zugrug's got enough auto attack debuffs between the two that it's enough, but I think that is a really good thing to point out, is specifically Vin moving into Lutano, I think is the breaking point. I think Tempo could have ended that game.
My favorite part, look, if you don't play a lot of Hanzo and you don't get to use Scatter Arrow on the core, it's not a perfect geometrical shape. It is wonky, and he landed max value Scatter Arrow in the middle of that.
It's like the equivalent of like taking a square and then a triangle, and then you put them over top of each other and then turn them like 45 degrees against one another, and somehow those weird angles are what every tick of that corner is. It's very, very difficult.
Because he landed it on one of those spots where it takes that weird like nook corner, but Lutano, this is what we expect from him. It was enough to help save the day. The fact that he went and helped push that boss and he stayed there, I didn't know if it was necessary, honestly, but the timing in the end, who cares whether it was perfect or not? It was perfect enough to hold on to that game to make this an interesting series all of a sudden.
Yeah, I did not think that Team Freedom had it in them, especially once Tempo got that first keep. That is usually the breaking point in that composition is you go, okay, we got the macro advantage. We can eventually make that add up, especially with an ETC stage dive in the off lane, not normally your best kind of go. And with the 13 fight from Freedom over the night camp, I thought all those were signs for me of like, this is too far out of control from Freedom. But the magic, as we have talked about, it's real for this team.
Think about that team, though. I mean, Curse #1, they had 2 tributes up, but they were down talent tier. They were down heroics at that. They picked up the boss, and they got back a little in experience at the end of it. It was 11.5 to 11.5, but the damage had already started to mount up against them. And then Team Tempo Storm started to do the same thing again, and then they picked up that second curse, and they had the boss, and they didn't have 16 talent tier. So they had to take a very different approach to it. But then when things started to unfold, they're like, we got to go for it. We got to go for it. And they got 16. They got in position. But the drag there, Zugrug was trying to zone them off, thought he could live with Army, but Glaurung, another great drag on that Dahaka, instantly changed the terms of that entire game.
Yeah.
And then from then on out, it was just magic for Team Freedom.
Yeah, that drag from Glaurung really was that moment where you go, oh my goodness, suddenly this game is back to even. Like, that was enough to be able to recover at that point in time. But Freedom, they're somehow doing the impossible, it feels like, at least so far here. I say that, but if you watch Europe, I guess the impossible has been happening at other times. But with Sky Temple away, Infernal Shrine's already gone as well. It's going to be, I wonder if there's a battleground that Freedom feels like they have that big of an upper hand against a team like Tempo Storm. Because for me, now it's, we've already passed the Infernal Shrines era. We've already got Sky Temple taken away, and all the rest Tempo's comfortable on.
Volskaya and Sergeant Hammer.
That Tempo is like the first team to make Volskaya popular in North America. So I look at that and I go, though they aren't maybe the highest priority Volskaya that we have now, they're very, very much comfortable when it comes to the Protector.
Yeah, we're still waiting for that map pick and whether Tempo Storm, whether they want the first pick, which that would give the map pick over to Team Freedom, or whether they want to pick the map pick, and we'll find out about that momentarily.